Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. I'm Adam.
And I'm Felix.
And this is our book club. So we are on chapter 2 of Maximum Entertainment by Ken Weber. Our goal here is to help us become better entertainers and hopefully along the way help you as well. So if you're not following along, please do grab Maximum Entertainment 2.0 from Ken Weber. It is an unbelievable wealth of knowledge. And if you want to support us, we never monetize these videos. So please just support us at vulpinecreations.com. Check out our catalog of magic there and sign up for our newsletter as well. That's all the plug-in will do. Felix, how you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. We're going to sort of dive right into chapter 2. Chapter 2 is the hierarchy of mystery entertainment. So in chapter 1, we sort of talked about entertainment, right? What the actual point of entertainment is, what it is. And in chapter 2, we're talking about sort of the hierarchy. So there's different levels of entertainment, and which one are we striving for?
Yeah, he's touching on the inconvenient question if you're performing puzzles, tricks, or really astonishing moments, right?
Exactly. That's the kickoff of the chapter is from the spectator's point of view. There's three things. We call them effects, right? We magicians do effects or illusions. Spectators see them as puzzles, tricks, or extraordinary moments, right? So we don't want to be just doing puzzles. We'd like to elevate from tricks to extraordinary moments. I think that's the goal, right? One thing I always thought in reading this was an extraordinary moment meant it had to move you, right? It had to like change your life view, and it doesn't. An extraordinary moment can just be an outrageous burst of laughter. That's an extraordinary moment. So one thing I would say going into this chapter is don't look at it as I've got to figure out a way to move the earth with my presentations. It's just about going from a puzzle to the idea of a trick, and then to the idea of something that's extraordinary, right? Something extraordinary that they're not going to see again, or at least they leave there going, I'm never going to see anything like that again. That's kind of what this chapter boils down to. Felix, any key takeaways from you on this chapter?
Yeah, basically it's a look in the mirror, right? Because I feel that the tricks or the effects or whatever you might call it, I do in practice at the moment. The way I do it gives me a solid puzzle to tricks category. But where do you see yourself?
Where do I see myself?
Yeah.
Tricks. I'd say 95% of mine are tricks, right? I put pretty decent presentations to them, but my presentations and methods aren't to the point where everything's an extraordinary moment, which is great. It means I've got things to learn and to build towards. But I would say the majority, the way I look at it is the people who buy a trick and do it exactly as the instructions said with no real presentation, just sort of walking through the motions. That's a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to just go through and look up and go, you know how I did it? That's how I started. That's how a lot of people start. Then moving into putting a little bit of our own presentation or our own personality onto these effects is what can take them from puzzles into tricks, right?
Yeah.
Hey, that was cool. This dude Adam did a pretty cool trick. The way, it's a funny sort of way to gauge it, but if they remember my name after the presentation, I think I've hit them with at least an extraordinary moment or two. If they just remember me as some magician that did some cool stuff, I did a bunch of cool tricks, right?
Yeah.
And then if they left there feeling like, okay, that guy thinks he's better than us, I probably did mostly puzzles, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the fun part is Ken Weber says in his writing that extraordinary moments basically are also defined that it's completely removed from the method because the spectator doesn't care if you perform a very well executed slide or no slide at all. To get a card from A to point B, it's just that it happens in a way that really, really impacts the spectator, right? And it's not no longer thinking if this is a slide or whatever.
So he talks here in one of the subcategories about bona fide magic, right? Asking ourselves the question of if I could really do magic, what would that be? It's always a great question to start with, right? If I could, let's say my trick I want to do is silk to egg. Well, if I could really do that, how would I do it? And then go backwards from there. Then he talks about, well, what if you could, well, he goes on to say, emotions lubricate the entertainment engine. And in some of the upcoming chapters, we'll go into the techniques for boosting the emotional content of your routines. But emotions generate real magic, right? I love that. And it's, again, I go into this whole of emotions means I have to be sort of like personal development and make your life better. But that's emotions. There's a wide range of emotions, right? Fear, hate, love, passion, laughter. All these things are emotions. The hand stab, right? A buddy of mine, Eric Ross, came out with a hook version, right? So you have a fishing hook on some strings, and spectators all pull these strings. And if the wrong string is pulled, you're going to hook your lip. That is an extraordinary moment if executed well. And it isn't because they're learning something. It isn't because you're hitting them in the heartstrings. It's because there's a moment of fear, right? There's this moment of unease and fear that this guy's going to hook his face. Mm-hmm. So for me, I have to take that into account, is that my emotion doesn't always have to be sort of heartfelt and tug on the heartstrings. It can be fear. It can be humor. It can be so many more things. And, I really like the little section of bona fide magic in there because he touches on that. It isn't, emotions are emotions, right? Mm-hmm. And if we can somehow get them emotionally involved with the magic, doesn't matter what the emotion is. That's what we're aiming to do.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing, and I saw your performances often enough to basically understand that, you're very particular and very focused on providing a good message with your effects. So the emotion you conjure up while doing the magic is basically an emotional anchor. So you can support the message and basically anchor them into the mind of the spectator, because it's always going to be recalled when he feels this emotion again.
Yeah. For me, it's exactly. If I can have them take away something and live a little bit of a better life after the fact, awesome. Mission accomplished, This isn't a real meaty chapter. It's a pretty short chapter, but I think that he sums it up here. There are a few notes that I think are important in the chapter. The stronger the magic, the less need for showmanship. Great line, right? Mm-hmm. So if I take a coin and place it in somebody's hand and they close their hand and they know it's there and then they open it and the coin's gone, I could say nothing at all, and that's an extraordinary moment. Because the method is so impossible, it's an extraordinary moment, right? Mm-hmm. So if the magic is as pure as real magic can be, you don't need to say much, right? The magic will fill that. The magic will take care of that, because inherently magic is showing them something that's supposed to be impossible. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like the less, not fooling, but the less layered or convincing, right? There's this idea of conviction, having the audience be convicted about what you say you're doing. The less conviction you have in the method, the more showmanship you've got to put to it to get to the extraordinary moment. A good example of this is there are some silent acts where really the magic isn't even that great. I'm not going to say names and stuff, but they're so talented at showing emotion with their body and their facial expressions that they don't have to say anything, and the magic doesn't have to be great. Mm-hmm. Those, to me, are the people I love studying, right? Watch a really good, not mime, but silent clown act, if you will.
Yeah.
And you'll see the stuff that they do to pull emotions out of people is a masterclass. I mean, we get to talk, we have humor, we have tricks, we have usually flashy colors and all this other stuff. And if we can pair that with what the skills of people like Charlie Chaplin, those kind of performers could do, it's just a different level of elevation. And to see really talented people leverage all of those is magical. I mean, great keynote speakers as well. They can hold an audience with really rough, we talked about it in chapter 1, really dry material, but it's through the way that they're being a professional entertainer, right? In their mannerisms and the way they walk and their certainty of what they're saying and the facial expressions and the looking at people and moving around the room in the right way. So the the less powerful the magic, the more you have to focus on all of those things. And I think that's a really important note.
Yeah, and
because
the
it's
impact of the magic as a counterweight for the showmanship, basically when you remove complexity, so there's no room for confusion and no moves whatsoever, but something incredible happens. For example, Crazy Man's handcuffs. Right, the plot is so simple that basically two rubber bands interlinked with each other, you can't get out, and then from 1 second to the other, you can tear them apart, or basically get them, separate them. Separate them is the right word, right?
yeah.
But it's so simple that if you don't see the move, it's really impossible. And you see, and people really really retell the story in a way it melted through, which is kind of incredible. Something very simple like that.
You know, I think summing up sort of the shortness of the chapter, there's two little things: that the trivialization of magic. Routines tumble down the hierarchy that we mentioned. Mm-hmm. Extraordinary moments become tricks, and tricks become puzzles because of the attitude of the performer. Mm-hmm. It's the presentation that squelches a potential extraordinary moment into a very nice trick. Think about every single word you say. That's powerful, right? He's almost stating inherently what we do is an extraordinary moment. If we're doing magic, that's an extraordinary moment. We then take that and turn it into a trick, or even worse, a puzzle. Mm-hmm. So it isn't the other way around, that we're buying a puzzle and then building it up to a trick and then building it up to an extraordinary moment. It's that we're getting the knowledge of this extraordinary moment, and it's up to us to not bastardize it into a trick, or even worse, into a puzzle.
Right.
And then he ends with, think about every word you say. Right? I love that. And we'll get deeper into that as the book goes on, but every single word you say from when you step on stage to when you leave has meaning. Think about that. I know it's scary, right? Think about your show today and every word in it having a meaning. It's a scary, daunting thing, because now you got to be responsible for every single thing you say. So, you know, if they say if you're comfortable, then you're in the wrong position, right? So I think at the end of the day, if you're comfortable with where your show is, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking at anybody. If you're comfortable with where your show is, I could go do it tomorrow in a heartbeat. Probably time to improve a little bit, right? To learn a little bit more. And this hit me hard in this chapter. Think about every word you say. So to end, he says, you want your presentational skills to equal or exceed your magic talent, but both require time, dedication, and effort. All magic at its core is a puzzle. Presentation and presentation only is the lever that elevates a puzzle to a trick, or a trick to an extraordinary moment. So again, we get these extraordinary moments either by buying them or reading them in a book, and it's up to us to put the presentation to them to keep them at that. Now, he says everything is a puzzle inherently, but if we really could do magic, it wouldn't be a puzzle, right? It would be, hey, I mean, I guess that's a good question. If you put a coin in someone's hand with no BS, no false transfers, it was in their hand, no trickery, and they opened their hand, that's a puzzle, right? To them, they're trying to find that solution. So even though it's, okay, the old sentiment of the best magic would be if somebody sat down and said, man, I'm really hungry. I wish I had a ham and cheese sandwich. And you showed your hands empty and boom, produced a ham and cheese sandwich, right? Say you did that. Still just a puzzle, right? Mm-hmm. Right? There's a meaning. The guy asked for it. The girl asked for it. So I gave it to them. But how did you get there? Right? And I guess to avoid them asking, how did you get there? We have to give them something else to think about, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
So instead of them saying, how'd you make that ham sandwich appear? We have to fill that void. And this isn't what Ken says in the book. It's just what I'm just sort of thinking off the cuff right now, is that idea of they're going to try and find the solution. So let's short circuit their brain before they get to that. You know what I mean?
That's a very interesting thought. Also, who wrote the book Magic is Dead? Was it Madison?
Madison has that quote, "Magic is dead," and I think he has a book called that too.
Is this his? Magic is dead?
Yeah, the idea is that magic's always been dead. It's up to us to give it life, right?
Which is, at least from my point of view right now, a reiteration of what he says, right? It's in your hands to make
Exactly.
it either a puzzle or an extraordinary moment. So what you
Yeah,
have is a puzzle, and your job is to make the audience believe that this is true magic and basically make it into an extraordinary moment.
yeah.
Interesting.
I love it. I think it's a good chapter. Like I said, it's a short chapter. The idea is essentially, look, we're trying to get from puzzle to extraordinary moment, and the only way to get there is through our presentation. So we are obviously, as the chapters go on, going to dive very, very deep into what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
How do I become a better presenter or entertainer? So that's what this book's all about. First few chapters are laying the groundwork, and then we start getting into the meat of it. So thanks for being
Awesome.
here. This again, we're going to try and hit these every week. We've said it a bunch, but we're going to do our very best that these will come out every week. And pretty soon we'll be starting to do some interviews as well. I don't want to say too much on it, but there's going to be some interviews with some of what we consider the best entertainers in the world. So stay tuned. Thanks for being here. It's currently Thursday, so if you're watching this now, have a great weekend ahead, and we'll see you on the next one.